This is Lewis up for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Always good to be joined with Adam Smith, especially on a Monday after the weekend of boxing we've just had. Yeah, it's been a while. How are you, mate? How's things?
I'm good, Lewis. I've had a very busy weekend myself. I was in Barnsley on Saturday night. That was following on from a big press conference in Sheffield, where we had the next GBM show due to the end of September. All the fighters there for a few fireworks and fun, and then it was off to Oakwell to the Callum Simpson Zach Shelley event, which was a terrific night, amazing atmosphere. And then I stayed up all night watching every single fight from LA. So yeah, long Saturday night, as sometimes these things are, and a little bit of FOMO of not being in the States, but then again had a really good time at Barnsley. So it's always tricky when you've got big shows on both sides of the pond. Obviously, a big one globally out there, but still a very important domestic fight night for Boxer on and Sky on Saturday. And yeah, and then Sunday, actually last night, I was at Headingley for the cricket.
Oh,
Went
nice.
to see with Izzy and had a really good night for the 100. So enjoyed that. So yeah, it's been a busy weekend up in Yorkshire.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it has been a busy weekend, so I do appreciate you speaking to me. Yeah, I suppose we'll firstly touch on September 27th. Yeah, that obviously got announced this time last week, but some interesting fights on the card. Obviously, new signing Reece Mould, he takes on Ryan Walsh. Tyson Gallagher against Tori Ellis in it, who she called for the fight, so she's got it. And obviously, Shaquille Thompson against River Wilson Bent, which is like the three big fights on the card. Yeah, exciting one as well as obviously Fury. So yeah, excited for September 27th.
It was a very lively press conference at the Cannon Medical Arena on Saturday afternoon before Barnsley. It was really well timed, so we could get the social media guys, the press over before the show over well. So yeah, big night, big day. I've seen a lot of different fighters, and there's a real buzz ahead of this one. I think it's the best show that Izzy's put on to date with GBM. A sort of triple treat at the top there with Shaquille Thompson headlining, real hot prospects, and pack middleweight division, of course, with Hamza Shiraz and Tyler Denny fighters coming up. What will have happened by then, September 21st. And yeah, looking forward to seeing Shaq. I think he's got real potential in with River Wilson Bent, who came up to me after the commentary show and said, Adam, please get me that fight. He was desperate for it. And, you ask and sometimes you get. There's Ashfaq was actually there calling out Danny Quartermain. So, fighters have got to do that. You've got to push it. And that's exactly what Tori Ellis did as well with Tyson Gallagher. So you've got the Shaq Thompson, River Wilson, Ben fight. You've got Tori Ellis, who absolutely believes she's a class above Tyson Gallagher, of course, has those British and Commonwealth titles, having beaten Stevie Levy at York Hall. Tyson, a really good fighter. And Tori Ellis on the GB podium squad for a long time and really fancies that. So Eagle there, Shaq, seeing him lose it slightly, which I've never seen before. He's a cat in the head-to-head with River. But then the fight that really stands out for me is the one you mentioned, Reece Mould against Ryan Walsh. I think it's a crackling crossroads battle. The winner goes on, the loser probably will find it difficult. Ryan Walsh was fantastic at the press conference at the head-to-heads, really trying to get inside Reece Mould's head. Reece says that he'll stop him, and of course Ryan's never been down or stopped in his career, so he took a bit of umbrage to that. And it was a really interesting sort of tete-a-tete between the pair of them. Reece Mould, very exciting fighter, and coming off that very sort of controversial close fight with Gary Cully in Dublin.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that's going to be what it says on the tin. I think it's going to be come forward aggression. The pair of them are going to combine. We saw on Saturday night, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, Steve McKenna and Joe Laws, and you knew before that could only erupt one way. It just happened to be than we thought and much quicker. But I do believe that Mould and Walsh just cannot not be an absolute firecracker on September the 27th. Huey Fury to the party, plenty of young prospects like Amir Akbar, and I really like Ed Hardy, the farm boy, training at the Steel City. He's one to watch out for. Jack Bateson, my old friend, Sky Sports scholar, once upon a time. Big following from Leeds. Amara, Amir Akbar, there's some really good fighters on there. And then Maxie Hughes called up and asked if he could have a slot on too. So it's absolutely jam-packed Tickets are flying out. Really looking forward to it. That's Friday, September the 27th in Sheffield. And the following night, Dalton Smith defends his goes for his European title, defending his unbeaten record and hoping to go on to become a world champion. The world champion, I think Dalton will become. So Eddie's got a big show on the Saturday. Hopefully, a lot of them will pile in as well and watch the Friday night entertainment. A bit like in Vegas when you get a huge show on the Saturday night, a good Friday one to watch for everybody. Well, I think it's going to be an absolute belter on the Friday night. I think it's a really, really good card from top to bottom. And yeah, I hope everybody tunes into the zone if they can't get there. It's we're moving in the right direction, I think, GBM, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you mentioned there, like sticking on the topic of Yorkshire boxing, something right to talk about what happened in Barnsley. Obviously Callum Simpson being being the new British middleweight champion. But we have to talk about Stevie, McKenna, Joe Laws. I was in Belfast. I wasn't actually at the fight, but I saw that first round. And everyone always promises a haggle of Hearns, but that was quite like that. From sort of the first second, they were trying to punch lumps out of each other. It was amazing.
People were saying at ringside, a poor man's Gassi Ward, a poor man's Hagler Hearns. The first round, one of the most brutal rounds I've seen up close at ringside. It was nice to be back with my old boxer friends and my Sky colleagues, seeing Ed Roberts and Johnny Nelson and Matt Macklin and the team. And yeah, Baz kind of invited me there, and Ben wasn't. Ben was with Martin Bakole, who again we'll talk about later, in America. It was a fantastic sort of atmosphere. We had the wall at the Oakville Stadium of support for Callum Simpson, which was brilliant. And it sounded like there was 25, 30,000 in there. I think they banged out 7,000 tickets. But yeah, what a treat on the undercard. I was actually backstage when McKenna and Laws came out, and they were just really fueled for it. And Joe just going on first bell, attacking him straight away and walking into trouble, and he thought he was going to get taken out. Victor Lachlan told me afterwards he was about to stop it in the first round, and suddenly bang, and reaction, that great shot of Spencer and I know Baz was in there, April Hunter was in there. It was a brilliant shot. Everyone going mad at ringside. It was brilliant, and it was Joe was just shipping a bit too much, and as it sort of went along, and I think the towel went in at the right time. But what a brave warrior, and a great win for McKenna. But he doesn't want to get involved too much like that. I think he's got a little bit more past than that. But Laws just he just drags you in, doesn't he? And it's all passion as well. I mean, you should have seen the ring walk when he was really giving it hands, and then backstage afterwards as well. He was walking down the corridor, and we passed each other at the same time, and I just gave him a massive hug. I said, "Look, you are one tough cookie." He said, "I just love to entertain." I'm sure he'll have a few more bookings after that one. It was an absolute pearl fight, and it was like an old fashioned brutal punch up in the car park, wasn't it? Just in the four corners of the pugilistic circle, and I think that it was just a great watch. Took me back to Paul Samuels and Wayne Alexander before your time, Bobby Lewis, but one really good fight back in the day. I remember both of them, I think, were unbeaten punchers, and Wayne Alexander was real dynamite in his hands. I mean, you haven't seen the knockout tackle before, but real dynamite in his hands. And he went in and he said Paul Samuels hit him harder than anyone's ever hit him, and I think they had 8-ounce gloves on at the time. It was, I think he said he could feel his knuckles. It was one of those. It was a right old bruiser, wasn't it? But a very, very entertaining fight. And surely that first round has got to be one of the best first rounds of the year, if not many years domestically.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I guess I did want to move on and talk about what happened in LA. Terence Crawford, now a 4-weight world champion, defeating Israil Madrimov. In what could be described as quite a high-level chess match with two elite operators. I guess, what did you make of the fight and the 12 rounds that you saw between two really, really skilled fighters?
Great sort of connection with boxing and chess, isn't there? A lot of fighters play. Regis Prograis as well. And I thought it was a lot of chess going on Saturday night, not just in the main event. Jose Valenzuela as well, very skillful, southpaw, neat and tidy. And even at the heavyweights, when you saw Andy Ruiz and Jerome Miller, it was a bit sort of tit for tat each time. There wasn't, apart from Bakole, which I do want to talk about, there wasn't that much drama. it was more sort of the artists were on display, and I thought Terence Crawford beforehand would win the fight, and I thought he'd win it by late stoppage or on points, and I thought Madrimov did really well. I thought it was a really good performance. I thought I knew he was a very good fighter, but I think he proved that he can, he belongs at top level. I don't think he won the fight. I thought Crawford did enough. It was close, but I thought Crawford certainly sort of, did a little bit more in some of the rounds. And I just think, he deserved the nod at the end. And that's an amazing achievement, becoming a full-weight world champion and against a guy like Madrimov. And I can understand Eddie's sort of complaints and being upset at the end, but Terence Crawford, for me, there's no robbery or anything. Terence Crawford won the fight. It was close. And he gets it. And let's take our hats off to one of the pound-for-pound kings, and just a joy to watch. And, he admitted that, the fight was tough, and that he's got a lot of respect for Madrimov. Whether he can now go up and fight Canelo in this sort of mad, dreamy, weird, crazy fight that Turkey wants to make. Of course, everyone's going to tune in and see if he can climb up many, many more pounds and take on, a legend like Canelo. It seems, I know Sergio Moore is saying it seems a real mountain, maybe even after looking at Saturday night, but Terence Crawford will take on any challenges. And of course, if they get the money right, I think that's a fight that will happen. Turkey seems to have that magic, and if you want something, it normally gets made. So I can see it happening. It's a fight that's going to stop traffic around the world. So why not? But yeah, Terence Crawford, not his greatest performance, but he boxed well enough for me, and Madrimov was great. Will come again. So yeah, not the drama. I heard some boos in the crowd during it. It was a one for the purists. And I think, actually, just going back to Barnsley briefly, it's like the same with Callum Simpson and Zach Shelley. Zach Shelley was awkward and difficult, had to be patient and did enough to win. It wasn't dramatic. Sometimes fights aren't when they've had to build up, and you can be disappointed by that. But also, as boxing fans, we love watching class, and that's what they gave us. And it was a long night, especially watching from the UK. Having gone through a massive press conference and then a massive fight night at Barnsley, and then watching all of that. So it was a long night. But I really enjoyed Martin Bakole's performance. That was the standout one for me. Billy Nelson has been talking about Martin since the beginning of time, and fair play. He stood by him. He said he's the best heavyweight in the world, and no one wants to fight him. And a couple of performances have been sort of okay from Bakole, and he's always been in the Who Needs Him club, but that was his arrival on Saturday night. What a night for Ben Shalom and for Billy Nelson, doing the jig afterwards with Martin Bakole. He just went in, and he's strong, he's big, he bulldozed his way through, and he was just too much for a very brave Jared Anderson, very brave. But Bakole is going to be a real problem for a lot of them now, and he could fight any of them, really, can't he? I mean, they want the big names, Usyk, Fury, AJ, but even the sort of the Zhilei Zhangs, the Joe Parkers, any one of them, you can fight anybody, really. Hughie Fury, I was talking to the other day, he wants to fight Zhilei Zhang. There's so many of those heavyweights in the mix now. Don't forget Dillian White still knocking around. There's loads of them. That Derek Chizore's great performance the other night. There's so many that be made. And he's Martin Bakole, and he's I think His Excellency was very hot on Jared Anderson when he came in the ring, and very hot now on Martin Bakole. We see that fair amount in boxing, don't we? But I think Jared Anderson can rebuild and come back. He didn't seem terribly disappointed afterwards. He said, "I'm going back to my kid," and it's boxing. Where I thought, okay, Niall Berry was broken in floods of tears when he lost his unbeaten record the other Coventry, and it's different how different fighters sort of take defeat, I guess. And he'll go back to the drawing board, and I'm sure he'll come again. Not a good night for Top Rank in that respect. They had a lot of hope on him. I was surprised they took the Martin Bakole fight at this stage. Very, very dangerous fight, and as it proved, I wasn't sure who was going to win beforehand, but after about 10 seconds of the first round, I think we knew. I think Bakole was great. The uppercuts were fantastic, and he knows when to punch, and he's going to be a handful for any of them.
I was going to say that, like, we'll touch on Bakole now, and I was going to say, like, you question sort of the matchmaking from Top Rank and from Jay Prince and Team Anderson for taking this fight, because there was a lot of guys that he could have fought, and Bakole probably was the toughest of them all.
I do slightly, Lewis, but then again, I want the best to fight the best. So I think it's fantastic. Jared Anderson took the step up to fight him, and he was incredibly courageous and brave. And you know, there's going to have his head held up very high after that. It's a defeat. It's not the end of the world. Fighters lose. It's how they come back, and they'll have learned a great deal in there. But if you know the great hope to go and fight, you know, the winner of, I don't know, AJ Dubois or get in the Usyk Fury mix, you know, within the next 2 or 3 fights, I wouldn't have picked Martin Bakole as an opponent at that step. So I think sometimes you take risks and they don't work out. Maybe they haven't done enough homework on Bakole. Maybe they just thought you can't beat Bakole, then you know why are we getting him ready for the bigger fights at this stage? So it's an interesting one. I don't think as part of Jared Anderson, but I don't know him well, so I don't know. You know, he might sort of get into that fight. I want to fight everybody, and that's that. End of. But as an independent sort of onlooker, I wouldn't pick that fight for Jared Anderson. But maybe that's because I know Martin Bakole better, and I've seen him a lot over the years, and see how difficult he can be. And also, I really respect Billy Nelson. He's been in the sport a long time. You know, back Scott Harrison days, and he has continually backed his man. You know, it's a strange sort of relationship. It was at the start how this big heavyweight ended up in the midst of Scotland, and yet Billy was like, this guy is going to be fantastic. And you know, I think Ben Shalom will probably even admit he needed a bit of convincing, but look how happy they are now, and that's how quickly this sport can change. And now he's in a fantastic position to go to Saudi and cause some real problems, some nightmares for some of these heavyweights with those big fists, the big power, and sort of like cumbersome. I mean, in commentary, I think some of the guys were sort of comparing him a little bit to George Foreman. I mean, that's a mighty comparison. I see what they're saying. You know, he's got sort of, you know, that ability to sort of walk you down, march you down, and have that one-off to get in. But I think that's also Bakole knows how to put the combinations in. He's an intelligent fighter. Not at all. It's not always the prettiest to watch, but he's very, very effective, and he's very big. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see where they go with him.
Definitely, for sure. Just sort of going back onto Madrimov and Crawford. One thing I wanted to ask you: when you look at the performance from Madrimov, especially, do you think this is a fight where the Crawford will get the respect for this win, like down the line, when we see what Madrimov can do as a super welter, or say middleweight even? That's when the win will like a Mayweather Canelo type fight. Like that's when he'll get his respect, when we go and see what Madrimov does.
It's a really good comparison, Lewis. It's a really good point. You know, the people are now saying, okay, Madrimov for bad night. You can't question how good Crawford is. I think he had 11 knockouts at the highest level going into the fight. Champion in 4 divisions. I mean, the guy from Nebraska, the cool cat who came over and fought Ricky Burns all those years ago, and none of us really about him, and look where he's come. So I don't think you can take anything away from Terence Crawford, and he hasn't been that active. And you know, if it was a slightly under par performance, but yeah, I think credit's due more to Madrimov, and I think you're right. I think he will go up with the weight, and I think that he will become a very good. He already is a very good fighter. I think he'll become a solid world champion somewhere down the line, and I think that will, in hindsight, the performance will look better. But yeah, it will take time, and I think that this is the way for him to become a 4-weight champion. I think Madrimov just didn't have the experience top level. I think that's so important. I was talking to the guys over the weekend about the AJ Dubois fight, and we were going back and forth on it. And it may be that it will come down to the fact that AJ has been, used to the Wembley experience, those 95,000 people, all the mayhem that goes on in a huge fight week. And although Daniel's had some experience of it, fighting Usyk and fighting out of Saudi, it is something different for him, and he's a lot younger. And although he's got the ability to really trouble AJ, I wonder if it could come down to something like that. And I think that's why I didn't think Madrimov would win this fight beforehand. He did a lot better than I thought he would, because I just think, as good a fighter as he is, Crawford's elite, and also you've got to take into consideration experience and styles and the big stage. All of that comes in, and Madrimov, like Callum Simpson at a lower level, took that pressure on his shoulders, went in and delivered a really good performance. So it was a win-win really for Madrimov and Crawford on Saturday night.
Yeah, definitely. And just a final one from myself. When it comes to mapping the next option for Terence Crawford, from your point of view as a fan or as an analyst, like, is it Canelo? Do you want to see him go up fight Canelo, or is it Virgil Ortiz? Is it Jaron Ennis? Like, there's great options, but if you could pick one, what would it be?
I love Virgil Ortiz. I know he's back in action, I think, next week. I think I'm a super, super admirer of Virgil Ortiz. Yeah. Takes me back to the Barrera sort of Morales day style. I think he's fantastic. I really do. And that's a cracker, or Ennis is another great fighter. And aren't they saying that Crawford could become the first since Homicide Hank to become the free weight undisputed champion?
Yeah.
I think Hank did it all at the same time, but yeah, it would be, I think. So that's there's always things to aim for, but the full weight check, puts his place in the history books forever. Would be the pound for pound king, but for Alexander Usyk. I would like to see him. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe have one more fight. Does he go up and then fight Canelo, or does he just jump straight into it? He's not getting any younger. He's proved everything in the sport. He's financially secure, and this will be a sort of pot of gold at the end of a great career. Maybe it's just straight into the impossible. Roy Jones did it when he went up. Okay, John Ruiz wasn't the fighter that Canelo was, but he jumped up to heavyweight, and everyone thought he was absolutely crazy. If he'd retired after the Johnny Ruiz win and not come down and got knocked out by Antonio Tarver and real sort of difficult end to his career, Roy Jones would have been remembered as probably one of the top fighters of all time for what he did. And I think at his peak, in that top 10, 15 category, but because of the fall after that. So it is a risk to jump up. And Canelo, of course, is a modern icon, a modern legend. So it would be a much harder night's work for Terence Crawford. But he's got the skills, he's got the ability, he's got the intelligence. You wouldn't have thought he's power's going to be a problem or anything. So he's going to have to outbox Canelo. So it's a game of chess again. He's elite, and so is Canelo. So look, I love dream fights. I love seeing fighters challenge, taking themselves outside of their normal world. And if it sounded crazy when I first heard about it, but I like it more and more. Even though Crawford didn't go and destroy Madrimov, which would have had people sort of really come on, it's Canelo next. I still think that's a fight of absolute massive interest. So my message to Turkey Al-Sheikh is let's get it on. I think he's offered the money to Canelo, so come on, Canelo. I know you've got a fight in time, you've got business to take care of, and there's always banana skins, but let's make it happen. The fans are going to love it, right?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Adam, as always, a real pleasure to be catching up with you. Always good to speak to you. And I'm sure it won't be too long till we're catching up again to cover some massive fights, mate. So, always a pleasure, mate.
Cheers, Lewis.
Top man. Thank you, mate.